जो आपके बालों को मजबूत बना सकते हैं.
We're going to style this top in 6 absolutely different ways.
மினி ஷாப்பிங் பண்ணேன். நான் எப்பவுமே நிறைய வாங்குவேன். ഈ ഫേഷ്യൽക്ക് എല്ലക്കല്ല് എటువంటి ബ്യൂട്ടി പാർലേഴ്സ്ക്ക് మీకు అవసరం లేదు.
കുളിപ്പിക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് നമ്മുടെ ബോഡി ഒന്ന് മസാജ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് എന്തുകൊണ്ടും നല്ലതായിരിക്കും.
ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಕೂಡ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ ನೋಡಿ.
panelists, respected Director Dr. Manoj K. Tiwari sir, Dean Student Affairs Dr. Hemandate ma'am, esteemed guests and invitees, honorable faculty members, officers and staff of NITIE, media personnel, and my dear friends. It's with much pride and elation that I welcome you all to the Prerana Business Meet 2020, an integral part of our NITIE's annual business festival that encompasses business, culture, and sport. The Prerana Business Meet has traditionally brought together some of India's highly illustrious leaders to discuss and share their views on the trends and the contemporary issues of the industry. This year, we have lined up some of India's best CEOs to enlighten us on the central theme, building self-reliant India, an invaluable part of global economy. The National Institute of Industrial Engineering was established in the year 1963 by the Government of India and United Nations International Labour Organization. The endeavor was to create a center of excellence that would generate solutions to the conundrums of an aggressively expanding industrial order and to upskill the next generation of techno managers. I now request Dean Student Affairs Professor Hemandate ma'am to welcome the esteemed guest, Mr. Netrapal Singh, CEO, Aditya Birla Finance Ltd to NITIE, and deliver his thoughts.
Thank you. It's indeed matter of great pride and elation for us to welcome Mr. Netrapal Singh, CEO Aditya Birla Housing Finance Ltd for Prerana Business Meet 2020. Having diverse work experience of over 2 decades in the financial services industry across multiple roles, Mr. Netrapal Singh has held various senior positions at esteemed organizations like HDFC Ltd, IDBI Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and ICICI Bank. Being an adept leader of the mortgage industry, Mr. Singh joined Aditya Birla Finance Ltd in 2011 as a zonal head of the mortgage business, post which he took over the responsibility to head Aditya Birla Housing Finance Ltd, launched in 2014. He assumed the role of the Chief Executive Officer in 2019 and has been instrumental in developing a culture of stewardship at ABHFL with a keen eye of business robustness. We are all excited to have you with us here at NITIE, sir, and learn from you your wisdom and expertise. Without further ado, I welcome the moderator of the evening, Professor Poonam Singh, to take over the session forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Poonam, please.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Esteemed guest, Mr. Netrapal Singh, CEO, Aditya Birla Housing Finance, respected director, sir, Professor Hemandate, respected faculty members, guests and dignitaries joining us on the platform, and dear students. This is again a great honor for me to be moderating this session and to be part of this and to be part of the learning experience. Today, and the topic in fact is quite interesting, right? Housing finance and the role it would play in Atmanirbhar Bharat. So I think we all understand that housing, it plays a key socioeconomic role in countries such as us, and actually it represents probably the main wealth of the poor. Like for an average Indian, it's like a dream come true when we have our own houses, right? And that way I would call Mr. Singh dream maker for us, if I can say. And this problem is now becoming much more challenging at the, say, affordable housing segment, particularly with such rapid industrialization happening. We have from the government a number of initiatives which look towards affordable housing, the Awas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Housing for All initiatives are there, which look into the housing requirements of the bottom of the pyramid. But there, a very important role that is to be played is by a financial firm like Aditya Birla, for instance, to solve the question of to bring in a financing solution for these kind of housings, right? So there is a need for a resilient and affordable housing financial market solution as well. The challenge for them is also not unsurmountable, if I can say, on one hand, but not something that one can ignore. They need to manage risk, they meet the regulatory requirements of the industry, particularly when this industry or rather this business line has a role in other aspects of the economy, right? It provides economic stimulus through leverage on growth, investments, job creation. Rather, it contributes to a constructive value chain and overall financial stability. I'm sure, with COVID, these kind of challenges would have further increased. And, I shouldn't be the one keeping you away from Mr. Singh, who's going to share all this and much more probably throughout the session. So with no further ado, let me just quickly share the format for this session. So we would have around 15 to 20 minutes where Sir is going to speak to us. And thereafter, we would have a question and answer session of around another 25 to 30 minutes. And I sure have a long list of questions for Sir. And I would request all of you to put in your questions on the chat box so that it becomes easier for us to ask the questions as and when it comes in your mind. So thank you so much, and welcome to you, sir. Now over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Professor Manoj Tiwari, a statesman and a pioneer in the area of manufacturing and logistics. Also the director of this glorious institution, Professor Poonam Singh, Professor Hemant Date, other faculty members, students, and everyone. It is my pleasure and honor to be present, to present my thoughts and interact with this dynamic crowd of prestigious institute. This institute has been producing top-class managers for about 57 years now, and continues to be a pioneer in industrial engineering and management. There are multiple leaders in the ranks of Aditya Birla Group that have graduated from here. In fact, we at Aditya Birla can't thank this institute enough for having helped us with quality human resources. So thank you so much. I have a small presentation. I would share my screen. Would just take 10 odd minutes to talk through, and then we can have an interactive session if that format is okay with you, ma'am. Sure. Am I audible? Okay. So Indian economy and unfulfilled potential. So 1991, we were a 0.2 trillion USD agri-backed economy. And from there onwards, if you look at it, 2020, we are a 2.6 trillion economy, and the entire journey essentially has been majorly services-driven economy. The Prime Minister of this country aspires to take this economy to 5 trillion by 2025. And the next phase of growth essentially would focus on Make in India initiative. A few points that I would like to highlight about this journey. So Indian economy has come a long way. If some of us on this call would remember that there used to be a waiting of 10 months to get that ambassador card at one point in time. From there, we have come to a juncture where today, same-day delivery is no longer a luxury. I mean, it is expected. 1991, we were a $266 billion economy. From there, we have come to 2.6 trillion economy. Millions of families have been lifted from poverty and have expanded the Indian middle class, which happens to be the backbone of our economy. as Professor Poonam mentioned, the best indicator of prosperity for any nation is its home ownership and the health and penetration of mortgage industry. Some of the other indicators of prosperity are public savings, investments, and consumption. My generation and the generations before used to subtract the saving from earnings before consumption. And today, I'm sure the generation after me subtracts expenses from the earnings, and whatever is left turns out to be savings. That's one shift which has happened. The older generations did not have easy access to credit and did not have instruments such as credit cards or home loans and auto loans. Middle-class families in the past never ordered desserts in the restaurant because such were the times and opportunities were fewer. And the good news is your generation has easy access to all the financial instruments that will not only support your consumption lifestyle, but also will help you flourish and possibly be more affluent than your parents and grandparents. Look at Indian demographics, something which would help us. I mean, India is actually best placed to become a global leader. Lowest median age of 28.4 years. If you compare this with China, China is at 38 years of median age. It's a clear-cut gap of 1 decade. 700 million workforce is expected to join over next decade. This is one big opportunity for us. And we are already seeing a global shift away from China. This provides big opportunity for all of us. So India's age, the median age, is essentially a big strength for us. We have to make full use of it. All the economic leaders in the world have an aging population, and will look to India to be the global leader to steer the economy in next 2 decades. The dream of 5 trillion economy can be fulfilled by 2025 only if we make radical changes in terms of leveraging the vast resources in hand and reach all those paying customers. So I think that will be one of the most important things. I think we have to have this belief and we all have to go after it. I think 5 trillion economy is definitely on our way, and I see no reason why we should not be able to achieve it. The subject, building a self-reliant India. This is one initiative which I think every Indian is giving its heart and soul to ensure that yes, India becomes a self-reliant. After being a closed and then an open economy, next target for India is to be a self-reliant. And while staying as part of the free market. We need to find a very fine balance between being an open economy and also to stay relevant and close enough not to let our economy being taken over by foreign superpowers. There's a fine balance. It's not easy, but it's a fine balance. During the pandemic, we have realized the importance of research and development, our agriculture sector that feeds us, the various other resources and industries that kept us going when the borders were shut. Just to give you an example, when a major supplier like Iran suffers due to internal and external politics, we suffer due to the interruptions in the supply of oil and gas. All these have taught us the importance of being self-reliant and need to be superpower in knowledge and production. Job creation, again, is result of journey to be self-reliant. To be a superpower and to stay there, we need to have open markets, give access to the world, the potential of purchasing power of Indian middle class. The local manufacturers, instead of looking for protection from dumping of goods by countries like China, should become competitive and provide quality goods and services. We can make up for the deficits in balance of payment caused by importing of oil and gas by ensuring that there is enough and more export of quality finished goods. We have come so far with the agrarian and the service-based economy. We cannot we'll have to go to the next level, and manufacturing would play a very important and a critical role. Oh, my video, sorry. Apologies, sorry, I missed that. Yeah. What is the opportunity in the housing finance space? This is essentially a graph which talks about what is mortgage as a percentage of GDP of some of the countries. So Indian economy, if you look at it, mortgages as a percentage of Indian GDP is about 10%. Look at US. Mortgage as a percentage of economy is 56%. China is 18%. And some of our Southeast Asian neighbors, like look at Korea. Korea is at 31%. So Singapore is at 52%. So I think the opportunity for mortgages to go up is huge and immense. It's very, very, very big. Indian mortgage industry is at about 20.2 trillion. And if you look at US is 16 trillion. So so essentially we are just 1.6% of US mortgage industry. So look at the opportunity that is there in this industry, and this so essentially the penetration of mortgages and mortgage as an industry, while we were talking mortgage as an industry, gives I mean it impacts multiple industries, the entire ecosystem, the value chain. If you look of mortgages, it gives employment to multiple sectors. It actually helps sectors like cement, steel, labor. I mean multiple labor classes. So if you look at it, mortgage as an industry is a very huge industry, and it gives employment to multiple classes. And there is a big opportunity. In fact, mortgages in India is poised to grow at a rate of about 30% odd. I mean, that's the kind of growth that we can see in this. And as Professor Poonam spoke in the beginning, I think this Housing for All initiative, and to ensure that every Indian household, every Indian is able to have his or her own home. I think that's the initiative that we have to drive. And if we can have that, it would help us in a drive of being self-reliant. And I'll give you a recent example. During this COVID era, if we see, and the biggest problem of migrant labor that we saw, one of the major reasons was because most of these laborers did not have their own shelter. And that was the reason why they all went back to their respective roots. Had we been able to give them, a shelter of their own, I think the bounce back of the economy would have been a lot faster. I think one, of course, we would have addressed the issue of a larger population, and the economy would have also gained out of it. The bounce back of the economy would have been a lot faster. We could have reignited our industrial engines a lot faster. So that's the kind of opportunity in the mortgage space. I think this slide talks at length about that. We've briefly touched upon these points while talking on the previous slide. Essentially, how can housing finance companies help? So housing finance companies, as I said, if we can provide housing finance to masses to ensure that they achieve their dream home, or they can get that shelter, I think it will help make every individual self-reliant, because that's the starting point for every individual. Yeah. So multiple factors, and I think again, as Professor Poonam mentioned at the beginning, I think now is the time to ensure that the unbankable, we have to ensure that we are able to bank them. We are able to get the banks to them. I think that's the initiative, and the housing finance companies would have to play a very important role, because the new age banking would have to kick in, digitalization would have to kick in, and I think we'll have to see how do we ensure that we reach the last man in the value chain, and ensure we are able to help every individual, every citizen of the country acquire the home of its own. So how can this be done? Essentially, as I said, digital disruption would be one of the most important tools to help this. As I said, digital disruption would help you reach the unbanked through branchless models. Ease of doing business for all the institutions, I think that will be very important, very critical here, because these are very small ticket loans, and the cost in processing each of the transaction would actually not help at the unit level economics. So hence it will be very important that we don't use the traditional brick and mortar model, and we use the digital model to reach to these targeted segments, so that the cost efficiency is there, and that in turn can be used to pass on to these same set of customers only, because then eventually whatever cost you incur is practically built into the overall proposition that you offer to these customers. So if you can help cut down on the cost, then the commercial proposition for these customers also become a lot more attractive. And obviously with digital initiatives, there will be a lot of transparency in what is being done, which in turn would ensure that there is enhanced customer experience. So how can you contribute to India's growth story? I mean, this is purely from this is something which I had my thoughts, and I thought I should share these thoughts with the students here. So I think some of the critical initiatives here would be that I think we have to hit the ground running immediately. What the industry expect out of you when you graduate is that you hit the ground running and bring the complete fresh perspective. The industry would look forward to that freshness, to the overall thing that you guys would get, and it will help us big time. Please be very, very ambitious. You have to dream big and you have to aim high. And would like to give example of Mr. Narayan Murthy. Had he not quit Patni Computers, we would have never had Infosys today. You have to be very ambitious, and you have to dream big. You have to be always innovative. Always look at the next big disruption, and the next big disruption you guys have to come out with, and you have to help the industry with next level of disruption. And only disruptions can take us to the next level. Another important initiative and another important thought that I would like to share with you guys, and I would expect you guys to demonstrate, is that there has to be entrepreneurship is another one thing which you guys would have to demonstrate big time. And it doesn't mean that it is only your own business. Even if you are a salaried individual, I think all ventures that you do there, or you do your own initiatives, I think entrepreneurship is something which you should demonstrate in each and every activity that you do on daily basis. Never have any fear of failure. Keep on trying new things. Please never have any fear of failure, because if you continuously keep on trying, that is the time when you would come up with something completely magical. So please always keep on trying. And last but not the least, please enjoy whatever you do. You have to enjoy your work, do what you love, and love what you do. So these are some of my recommendations to you guys. I think that's all that I have in this short presentation. I would love to hear from you guys, and then we can have interactive sessions. So good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think this was short, but it was quite insightful in that. So the quick takeaways that I had was, of course, the huge potential that this sector is, and when you put it in a comparative forum, then you understand really and then you add the population size and so on. So yes, this market is going to grow bigger and better, I suppose. One point, which really touched me, if I can say, was the issue of, the migrant and the housing, connect that you made. I think that's really something that we need to take care of as fast as possible, so that such an eventuality never arises, because that was really the most painful part of, I think, COVID for all of us. And of course, the digital disruption that you mentioned. So I actually have a few questions on that. So, and probably I think I can start from there itself. So we are seeing this, I mean, digitization had been there for some time now, and thank God it was there, because for COVID, it has really turned out to be a blessing in disguise. But specifically, how are you using, this for, say, creating some financial, say, innovative solutions, particularly to solve the, financing issues of the bottom of the pyramid, would be my first question.
Sure. So thank you so much, Professor Poonam. I think that's a brilliant question. So two things here. If you look at digitization, I think COVID has come up as a big enabler for digitization. And I think overall, if you look at it, and in these 3-4 months of lockdown, I think on the digitization, we as a country probably have taken a quantum leap of at least 5 years. I think in normal course, what we would have achieved in 5 years, I think we have already achieved in last 5-6 months of the COVID that we have seen. And every industry, every sector that you talk of have invested heavily on digitization, and lending is no different, I think. And fortunately, we as an entity had been working on digitization for a long time. And again, as I said, when you spoke about bottom of the pyramid, I think that is one sector where you have to invest heavily on digitization, and for the simple reasons, because the unit economics in the traditional way would just not match up and would not make a fit business case for anyone. So the only way is you cannot look at it from a traditional brick and mortar way of doing things. You have to look at digital ways so that you can reach to the last person. You can ensure that the journey is smooth and seamless for that individual. There is a lot of transparency, and the cost per transaction is way lower, because that in turn would eventually help the customer and would also help the overall segment, because if the segment becomes profitable, then everyone would ensure that they invest heavily into that segment, because at the end of the day, every business looks at an initiative from a business perspective as well, because at the end of the day, you have to ensure that the P&L also meets up. So that would be, so digitization would ensure that that the business meets up its P&L initiative as well, over and above ensuring that the social responsibility is completely taken care of. Along with that, one important parameter that I would like to highlight here is that this is a segment which has been unbankable for a long time. And there might not be too much of documentary evidences available in terms of what are the income standards of those individuals. In lending, you look at it traditionally in this country or anywhere, if you look at it, whenever it is done, it is essentially an assessment of the existing cash flows of an individual, and basis that you derive what is the quantum of the loan that should be given. So wherever there are documentary evidences available, the journey is a lot more easier. But for this segment, the documentary evidence is not available, and it's a complete assessment that you have to do. And hence, digitization and ensuring that right data fields are captured would ensure that this segment becomes a lot more structured, and the subsequent lending to this segment become a lot more easier. Yeah, so it is not only digitization, but as I said, going forward, it is essentially use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And these two things would only become relevant in case if you ensure that you are capturing the right data fields. And again, as I said, data fields, it is both the static and the dynamic data fields, because only then can you ensure that, yes, your lending is of the right nature and right shape.
Thank you. I think that is, the data is probably going to be a bigger challenge, especially for affordable housing segment, because like you mentioned in the beginning or while we were talking in the morning about credit bureaus. So I'm not sure how much of the data that, for this segment that they are able to capture.
No.
For us,
most of them would be first-time borrowers.
Yeah,
so
that's
bureau would not be able to help you much. Yeah.
And when we say unbanked, so the challenge is really high.
Yeah.
So now I move on to a second question, which is related, but it is, I think for any of your customers. And this is a beautiful question, framed by the students. So I will read it verbatim. So ABHFL is known for its attractive interest rates, quick and transparent processing of home loans, and is very much customer centric. What are the challenges the company is facing to analyze the risk on individual requests, and how is it able to quickly process the same? Also, what are the steps taken to identify fraudulent requests?
Okay, so I think that's a very good question. So if you look at it, our entire journey now is completely digitized. So even if a physical transaction comes our way, it eventually becomes a digital transaction, because that's how we have designed the journey now. So every entire transaction, the processing of the transaction is essentially in digital format. So when you do that, and with the digital initiatives that we have and the sourcing applications that we have, so one is that you have to ensure that you are meeting up with every customer. The KYC of every customer is validated, sitting across the table, and it is validated from the sources. So KYC validation, maybe Aadhaar validation, a PAN card validation. Not only that, even the bank statement, if you have that, can be validated online. The income tax returns can be validated online. GST can be validated online. When you do all of this, then you are absolutely sure about the identity of the customer and the actual background of the customer, because if you're able to analyze the banking and validate the banking, validate the financials and analyze the financials, validate and analyze the GST, I think if you do all of this, then there's nothing which goes out. And then there is 100% physical contact that we do. We ensure that our team meets up with the customer, and that in turn gives comfort to the customer also, because when somebody is meeting up with the customer across the table, then there is an opportunity for us also to establish that relationship, establish that bond. We essentially look at it from that perspective. When we meet up with the customer, it's a bond, because a mortgage is not a 1-year product. It's a 15-year, 20-year product. It's a long-term relationship. And if you start that relationship on a good note, and if you're able to establish that bond with the customer, it definitely helps. So these are some of the initiatives which helps us that there is see, you cannot eliminate fraud risk completely, but we try and minimize it to the best possible level. And we are fortunate enough, we've not been hit by fraud in any of our transactions. And I think it's more to do with the kind of strong processes that we've been able to build in.
So now we are getting the secrets of, you being ahead of the curve. So it's like embracing innovation really at quite ahead of time. I think that's probably the learning that we get. My second question is with respect to now the supply side, the availability of funds. So I think this is it's one area where it's, as you mentioned rightly, that it's a long-term investment. Like, the returns are coming over a period of time. But what I still understand is majority of people pay it within 5 years, a 15-year loan. So that's an aside question. But the main question here is that how, as like ABHCL is tackling this whole issue of, raising funds or, creating this whole long-term capital for investment.
So I think that's a very important question and a very critical one, because at the end of the day, if you look at it as a housing finance company, I think, or any lending business, if you look at it, and I always say this, and it's a very interesting thing. Our raw material and our end product is the same. You borrow money and you lend money. And you obviously you'll have your own capital, and then you'll leverage on that capital, and then that becomes your kitty, and then you lend it to the customer. So essentially, but at the end of the day, you are borrowing money and you are lending money. Yeah. So 2-3 things here. We are a AAA rated entity, fortunate enough to be part of Aditya Birla Group. Yeah, that's one of the biggest strengths for us, and it's a very well diversified and very strong group that we have. The fundamentals of the group are very strong, and being a AAA rated company, yes, and then we are adequately in terms of equity levels. If you look at it, very adequately funded entity. So that is another big advantage. And once you have a AAA rated company with good management and adequately ensure that your equity levels are adequate, I think there are enough and more opportunities in the market where you get good debt, you get debentures, you get bank lines. So those are the sources through which and maybe commercial paper. So those are the sources through which we create our funds, and then we ensure that we are able to identify good customers, and then we lend to the good customers. So quality of our book is also important. So, and whenever you lend, so these are rolling over lines. So every quarter, every 6 months, there is an appraisal which is done by these set of relationships. Also, they would ensure that if you're moving in the right direction, your pipeline would continue. If you're not, obviously people would have questions. So it's a complete 360 degree which has to be ensured. But yes, we've been fortunate enough. Being part of Aditya Birla Group is our biggest advantage. And then along with that, yes, a very well diversified and a good quality leadership that we have in the organization. I think, yeah, that helps us to have a good, robust business model, which is ensuring that, yes, we are able to generate funds from the market.
So I just may quickly share here that one of my research interests in business groups in India, and time and again our research throws out this whole deep pocket argument, I think, which you were referring to. So yeah, that's actually quite a blessing, if I can say. So, moving on, I think you had made one point in your presentation regarding the demographic dividend that we are having, right? So your point was probably for the economy as a whole. Now, linking to that, what a question that I have here is that like the average age group which buys home in India is quoted as like 40 probably, right? So there, but now probably it has changed to the mid 30s or so. How do you think this demographic shift, how it is going to impact this industry in particular? And is ABHFL trying to lure this? They have some unique propositions to offer to customers to take advantage of this demographic shift.
No, completely. I think yes, we are very mindful of this, and we are seeing a clear-cut pattern. I think the average age of our customers is declining at a regular interval. We are mindful of that. Yes, we have specially curated programs towards the millennial, and we have started thinking, we have started applying our brains in terms of what needs to be done as and when the Gen Z comes into that category. So we have started thinking about that. And yes, as I said, if you look at a millennial, I think some of the very important things that you have to keep in mind is that, yes, there has to be that ease. I think ease and transparency is very, very important. If you can give these two things, I think, because that patience levels are not there, you have, and you don't have the luxury of not doing it right the first time. I think when you are dealing with this generation, you have to be absolutely sure that you do it right the first time and you are able to meet the expectations. So we have specially curated products. We take care of that specifically for this segment, and I think this is what we are banking on, because as I said, 700 million to be added to Indian workforces in next decade or so, and we see most of them to be our customers. I mean, most of them would eventually become a customer. If they become part of the Indian workforce, they would obviously in some time aspire to have their home of their own, and they would be our targeted customers. So we look at that as a big opportunity, and we would definitely curate things aligning to the requirement of that segment.
Thank you so much. I hope we have time for one or two more questions. So one quick one, I think this is a pain point from customers. So with respect to, this fixed and floating interest rates that people have. So when they move from one to the other, there's this switching cost that they need to incur, right? So, I mean, is there a way that you can, address it?
So I'll tell you what. So if you move from a floating to a fixed, there is no such fee.
Right.
But if you move from a fixed to a floating, there is a fee. And I'll tell you the reason why there is a fee. When an institution would lend to one of the customer segment or a segment within the customer base under the fixed category, then you would have to match up that with your liabilities also on the fixed side. So if you match up with your liabilities with fixed rate, and then there is a pre-termination in this, there's actually a financial mismatch which is happening. And to balance that is the reason why institutions would charge a fee for it. But not the other way around. If somebody is on a variable rate and from variable one wants to move to fixed, there won't be any charge. But if somebody is moving from a fixed to variable, then there would be a charge, because the institution would have aligned their liabilities also accordingly.
So, okay. Yeah, I mean,
so it's more from that perspective.
Still the customer may not be happy with the technique.
No, I appreciate. Right? But yeah. I just wanted to give you the background as to why it is. Because on the liability side also you have a fixed rate of interest. Yeah.
Right. So the last question, which I think would probably be a common question wherever you go right now, is, how are you dealing with all the challenges that COVID is posing to your industry?
No, I think COVID, if you ask me honestly, I think I look at it as an opportunity, and I'll tell you why. As I said, these 6 months have fast-paced the digitization by 5 years. I think I look at it as an opportunity, and the acceptability has come from the customer perspective also, and internally in the ecosystem also. That acceptability has come in, that this is the way of doing things. These are the newer way of doing things. I think we were fortunate enough. We were always very agile. We were always able to align ourselves with the changing times. But I think COVID has taken this to a completely different level. And I completely look at it as an opportunity. I think we've been able to, and people have been able to see some of the hidden strengths which they never realized. I think I look at it as a complete opportunity. Yes, there have been few challenges, and the challenges is some of the customer segments unfortunately have seen problems or challenges on their cash flow side. Yes, and we've been standing with them, and the government of India also came up with the emergency credit lines and all. I think, yes, that is one thing, but my sense is that is probably short term, and eventually things should shape up again, because the intent of the customer is there, and I see no reason why things should not change for them as well. But otherwise, I think COVID, to me and to us as an organization, we take it as an opportunity. I think we also didn't realize what are our limits, and we've been able to stretch ourselves to those limits. And we are fortunate now that, yes, now that we know those extent of our limits, I think road ahead would be a lot more smoother for us, and a lot more productive for us.
So I think this kind of brings us to an end of this question and answer session. So it has been an absolutely comforting journey, talking to you. And I mean, one of the points that you had made in the last slide, which was message to the students, and the last point was love what you do and do what you love. I think you did that. You set that example today, like walking through your slides and the way you address the questions. It just shows you have a love and passion for your work. And that was exemplary, if I can say. So I really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope our audiences as well. Thank you so much. And I hope, this is just the beginning of an association that NITIE would have with you. I think I personally would love to be in touch with you if you agree.
Would look
and
forward. Sure.
Of our students have lots to learn from you. So thank you very much. Now I think I'll hand over the session to Praveen. Praveen, over to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. It was indeed an enriching experience listening to your words of wisdom, sir. Now I would like to invite Dean Student Affairs, Professor Aditya. Okay, a correction in that, ma'am. Thank you so much for the kind words, sir. I would like to conclude the session by thanking Mr. Netrapal Singh for his valuable time. We are privileged to have you listen to your perspectives, and I believe all of us who have listened to you today have been grateful for the same. I would like to thank the NITIE fraternity, especially our director, Professor Manoj Tiwari, sir, and Dean Student Affairs, Professor Aditya ma'am, for supporting us to make the event such a success. I would like to thank the moderator, Poonam ma'am, for moderating the session in a seamless manner. Finally, I would like to invite the organizing team, the Prerana Management Group members, to click a virtual photograph with the guests with your permission, sir.
Akash, let us know when the live stream ends. Sir, if you can kindly wait for another 2-3 minutes, that would be great. We'll just let you know.